All right, thanks for waiting. I think it was worthwhile. We got a couple extras signed in. Thanks for joining us today on our webinar for better plan production tools in Civil 3D. My name's Colin Gaudette. I'm a civil technical consultant with SolidCAD, and I'm joined here today with Brian Lewandowski, our civil product manager for the CTC software. So before we get started, for those of you who don't know, we'll go quickly through who is SolidCAD, who is CTC software, and then we'll take a deep dive into these productivity tools we're showing off today. So SolidCAD is your software reseller, obviously for the CTC software that we're talking about today, but as well for Autodesk. We do a ton more than that. We're here to support you both in technical support, training, workflow optimization, and tons of what used to be live events are now translated to online events and remote events. We are cross Canada with 15 offices and 12 training facilities, an expert sales team spanning Canada as well, Ontario, British Columbia, Quebec, and Alberta. And to accompany them, we have our expert sales team, or our expert technical team rather, spanning Canada as well. So we're here almost 18 hours a day from 6 a.m. Halifax time all the way to 6 p.m. Vancouver time to help you with any solutions and workflow optimization in that. As we are in the times that we're in, there's a lot of remote work that has to happen. We have been around this for years and years, and we offer a lot of remote services, from helping implement VPNs and like customizing training, or offering consulting and things like that, or mentoring. We're here to help. We're here to make sure that you're getting the most of the software you're paying for. And like I was talking about before, we have a number of partner products, obviously talking today again about CTC software, but Autodesk, Bluebeam, and a number of others as well. We have tons of upcoming online events, a couple here on the left, talking about some of the manager suite for the CTC software, as well as some of the surveyors tools. And then we have some more of our remote courses that we were alluding to before. I also wanted to highlight the Solid Assist technical support program. This is a lot more for the contracts, licenses, installations, getting everyone working on their remote VPNs and things like that. If anyone's having troubles, please reach out at support@solidcad.ca. We have expert teams in each of these areas to get you guys up and running as efficiently as possible. So let's move on to CTC software real quick. SolidCAD is the exclusive Canadian reseller for CTC software. They have a ton of great tools for Civil 3D, but they also have even more for Revit. If you're one of the facilities companies that has that's multidisciplinary, it's definitely worth a check out on the Revit side as well. But today we're going to deep dive into the Sim Project Suite. Primarily looking at the plan production tools and getting into a little bit of some of the new software with labeling and automated labeling. And with that, I'm going to let Brian take it away, and he can get us started into our data wizard and sheet generator.
Great, thanks Colin. We'll go ahead and get our screens switched over here. All right, I'm just going to pick up where Colin left off. As he mentioned, we're going to be talking about the Sim Project Suite. That's our suite of tools for everyday production, be it pipes, corridors, annotation, and then one of the upcoming webcasts that Colin mentioned, the Sim Manager Suite, contains tools for standards management, automated ways to be fixing or updating or creating templates, managing your styles, layers, and so on. And so today, like we said, the Sim Project Suite, specifically plan production related tools. And we want to show you better plan production tools than you're used to in Civil 3D, While there's some great stuff in there, right, a lot of it's pretty painful, and you guys spend a ton of time in plan production. I want to show you one tool set that creates dynamic plan and profile sheets. You know, there's a native tool set in Civil 3D that will create plan and profile sheets or plan and plan, but once the sheets are made, they're just kind of on their own, right? So if something changes in your project and the sheets need to shift, you have to delete all those, or you have to manually edit all those viewports on your own. We have a dynamic tool set that will actually shift and update all your sheets based on any kind of project changes you might have, like shifts in alignment, stationing, you name it.
Brian, if I could just
Yeah.
interrupt for a second, we can see your control panel on your screen for the webinar.
Let's make sure that is showing properly.
Just wanted to give you a heads up. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you see the PowerPoint now?
We see the PowerPoint. We see the control panel overlaid over top of it.
How's that?
Looks a lot better. Awesome. Thank you.
You'd think I'd figure this out having done a lot of these, but anyway, thanks for the heads up. The second tool set I want to talk about is about automating legend creation. There is nothing in Civil 3D for this, and we have a robust tool that does a great job on it. And the third thing is automating your labeling. This is a tool we have coming out in just a few weeks, in fact, and I've got a beta I can give you a little taste of today. All of these are tools in the Sim Project suite that we've mentioned. So the first one, dynamic plan and profile sheets. This is a tool called Sheet Generator. It will create and also update your sheets automatically after those changes happen. It controls your profile views. It handles sheet set fields, your match lines, everything that goes into your plan and profile sheet production. The automated legends we talk about, this is a tool we call Data Wizard. This thing can scan for any and all AutoCAD, just about all AutoCAD and Civil 3D objects across one or more drawings and generate legends, tables, project-wide quantity takeoffs, you name it. The focus here is plan production, so I'll show you some table and legend creation. But normally that's the kind of thing you have a one size fits all, and you kind of copy and paste it into your sheets, and then you edit it after the fact. Or maybe just kind of leave it as is, and you have entries in your legends that don't exist in your actual project. We have a tool that will scan for just what's in that drawing, or even limit it to a viewport, and it'll generate legends specific to that. It'll update when the drawings change, right? So what if more data comes in, or there's a change to your view, whatever it might be, those legends will refresh. You just run an update command on them. And because scanning for all these different objects across any number of drawings can be fairly complex, there's a lot of settings involved. And I'm going to give you a taste of some of those today, but all of those can be saved out to a template, right? So what are routine things you do? You've got a demo plan legend, or maybe you've got a project-wide legend for this type of project, a site-oriented one. Maybe you have a different type of legend for more transportation-oriented projects, right? You can save out these different templates that will give you your detailed legends, tables, QTOs, whatever it might be. And finally, we also talked about automatic labeling. This is a tool that's coming out soon. What we're looking to do here is to automate the majority of all your labeling. It sounds like a big ask, I know, but I've been going through a lot of the beta testing recently, and it's really going to be something cool. I think it's going to be one of the best tools we've put out there. But all this stuff, right, like line and curve labels, pipe network labels, just M text and M leaders, all this kind of stuff, we're going to have it baked in there. It works across AutoCAD and Civil 3D labels. You're going to be able to label multiple drawings and or layouts at once. And it works with your standards, right? So it's reading whatever styles you have set up. It's working with your layers. And it's pretty simple to use. Here's a couple screenshots. I'm going to show you it live too, but I just want to give you an idea of kind of what it can do. You select your drawing sources and you either limit them to layouts or not. You choose a label type like M text or line and curve labels. What are you going to anchor that to? And then there's filter options as well, like only anchor to feature lines on this layer, for example. And then there's a bunch of data objects, or data options rather. If you're inserting M text, right, that's just kind of a dumb text entity. Well, wouldn't you want to read the anchor object's layer name, or perhaps the area of a polyline or the length of something? We can automatically write that via an AutoCAD field to all those M text entities. And then there's all these formatting options, which styles, is there offsets and rotation. And finally, you can execute that by a command down here. Notice it's called add or update labels. So if you spit out 500 pieces of M text across 3 different drawings, and then you go do a bunch of work on those drawings, you can simply come back here, refresh your labeling scenario, and it'll update all that stuff in those drawings. And much like Data Wizard, you can create templates that you can reference on other drawings, on other projects, because let's face it, a lot of these labeling scenarios you go through, you kind of repeat them from one project to the next. What varies a lot of the time, though, is the actual geometry, right? Where you're attaching that label to, that varies with every single drawing. So, but what style you use, what layer those objects are on, a lot of that stuff can be templated. And so you can do that as well. So let's jump into Civil 3D and let me walk you through some of these tools firsthand so you can see what they look like. First one we mentioned was talking about dynamic Planum profile sheets. I've got an example here where I'm going to lay out my plan views, I'm going to generate my profile views, and I'm going to generate some sheets. And then we're going to do with this tool what it was really meant for, why we really built it, which is to run this command here, the update layouts command. Okay, I'm going to be able to go and make a shift or a change in my project and push all those changes to all my sheets. And so let me walk you through it. There's quite a few settings in here. I'm not going to touch on every one of them. It's a very robust tool set with multiple different modules, but I just want to give you an appreciation for the workflow so you can get a sense of what it can do. So the first thing is to lay out our plan views. And that starts with a simple command called plan view shapes. So we invented a term called view shapes, and that just represents in model space what your viewport will be. We can choose a station range, along which we're going to create sheets. If some of you have used the native Viewframes tool set, some of this is similar, but again, the goal we're after here is not just creating things. You know, this is one of the things that Civil 3D does great is create all these things, but what does the actual design process look like? It's very iterative. You're constantly editing and changing things. That's where Civil 3D falls short a lot. And we're trying to make up for it here in this tool set. I can specify a distance between my match lines. I can tell it to have the match lines land on the nearest 5 meters. I can even have it avoid vertices in my alignments, like don't land on PCs or PTs or things like that. And if I click finish, it's going to lay out all my sheets in plan view. Now, what does it do? What does it create? It creates a simple block. This is what we call a print area. And I can take this and I can move it around. If I don't like where that's sitting, where Sheet Generator placed it, I can rotate that. This is what's called a view shape. It's simply a polyline, but this is the object that we'll use to create your viewports. These are representative match lines, okay? But it gives you appreciation of what your sheet layout will look like. We made this to work with simply blocks and polylines so that you can do any kind of editing you want, right? I can move this stuff around. I can change the vertices very easily. It's just polylines. I could draw a new polyline. And as soon as I go and run the create layouts command, it'll use those polylines and create viewports for me, okay? So moving on, I had mentioned that this is a very kind of module-based tool set, and we did that on purpose because by its very nature, it's dynamic, right? We can back up, change things in plan view, push those to our sheets, right? So instead of one big wizard, we broke it out into a number of tools like this, but we're basically going to work from left to right here. The next one, we actually take advantage of the native create multiple profile views tool set. And so I'm not going to walk through that, but what we do is we use that tool to generate the profile views, and then we control them with these next commands, like this one right here called adjust profiles. I can grab all my profile views. And this actually is a command people use outside of the entire tool set. It's very handy. What I can do is I can tell all my profile views to match my plan view stations. I simply pick the layer that the view shapes in plan view are on. That's all the cyan shapes here. But then I have all kinds of other controls. You know, this is one of the limitations of the native tool set if you've used it, is that the profile view station and elevation control is pretty limiting. Like what if I wanted to put a buffer, like an overlap from one profile view to the next? That'd be a totally manual thing. We can do that here. What about the profile view heights or the elevation ranges? I can force them to round to the major elevation ticks, right? That's in my profile view, what this grid spacing is here. I don't want it to land like this. I want whole grid spacing there. I can tell it to center on different objects in my profile view. I've got surface profiles and pipe networks and a variety of other options that gives us a ton of control on the profile view heights. And I can force a overall profile view height as well. So tons of control. This is one of the things we try to do in here, is not just give the ability to have dynamic sheets, but along the way give you way better control of those sheets in the first place. If you guys aren't using the Viewframes tool set, then this should be a huge surprise for you. It's a really powerful tool set. So I'm gonna hit OK to this, and you're gonna see this and all the other profile views shift the stationing, okay, to match not only plan view stationing, but also round to the major grids. Look at the station here. This goes from 0 plus 225. This one starts at 0 plus 215. That's because we gave them each a 5-meter overlap. I've got a command here called networks to views. Instead of adding our pipe networks in the native profile view command, we use this because I can read all the pipe networks in my drawing. I can tell it to read a distance left and right of my alignment and find all pipe networks and add them into the profile views at once. And the beauty of this tool is that it only adds the pipes and structures that land within that station and elevation range. Now say you had some real deep manholes there and you didn't quite like the way they fit in your profile view. Okay, you simply run adjust profiles again. I'll grab all of these. And now that the pipe networks are in there, I can recenter on those two sets of object types. I'll hit OK, and a simple regen, and now I am more centered on those pipe networks. Okay, next thing, we want to place our profile views in our sheets, or basically where they're going to land in our sheets. So some of you might have been wondering, what about these rectangles here? Where do those come from? What do they mean? Well, the way Sheet Generator works, a little look behind the curtain here, is in your sheet template, your pre-configured empty templates basically for your sheets, we ask that you simply put a rectangular block. This represents the area on your sheet that Sheet Generator will fit a profile view. You do it for plan and for profile. If you do a lot of plan and plan sheets, you make one for that, so on and so forth. But the size of this block right here is what dictates the size of the block right here. It's the same block, just scaled up by my drawing scale. Okay, so we need to place that same block around our profile view so that we know that it fits in the sheet in the way I want. So I'm going to grab all my views, and I can place this block right around all these. Okay, now this is how it's going to land in my sheet. And it's important to note that it's not just centering on the profile view, it's actually placing it such that the starting station of the profile view is in line with the plan view on my sheet. And sometimes you end up with something like this. it's nice to know this ahead of time because what? I had made my view too large over here. So if you remember what I said about being able to edit this any way we want, we could just shrink this down. This is our viewport, remember? Okay, now my starting plan station is right there. I can simply come back here, run adjust profiles. I just need to do it on this one. Remembers all those previous settings, and then recenter this profile view where it will land in the sheet. Okay, refresh the view, and now it's centered. It's not right along the left edge here because of where the stationing starts. Okay, so really dynamic. You can jump between these different modules. You can massage this stuff, get it to look how you want before you actually even create the sheets. But like I said, once they're created, we can still go back and update the sheets if any of this stuff changes. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and create my layouts. That's this command right here. I've got all these different options: plan and profile, plan and plan, okay? And then you've seen some of these layer and block name options along the way. These are just settings we're using to decide, you know, which polylines and which blocks are to be used in this sheet creation instance. There's a list of all the sheets that are going to be created. And then a lot of the details that go into our sheets. Specify a north arrow block. What about match lines? We actually use attributed blocks to create our match lines. So we're not using those really clumsy native ones, but we use something much more flexible. So I've got a simple block in here called a match line block. And by the way, you can get these, you can get sample files for all these tools. This one in particular is helpful because we'll have examples of a match line block, a north arrow block. You can take those, you can use your own, of course, but as you're trying to get used to using these tools in your own projects, it's helpful to have some sample drawings to see, you know, how they work best. We can insert profile match line blocks. A little less common, but certainly something people do. We can do that here as well. That's another thing not found in the native tool set. And finally, sheet creation itself. What layout am I going to duplicate? How many layouts per drawing? So this is going to create new drawings. It's not going to make all the sheets in this drawing. It's going to create new drawings based on the number I set here. I could set it to 1, and it would make however many layouts I have here, maybe 10 or so. It would make 10 new drawings. Or if I set this to 10, I'll get them all into one new drawing. Viewport scale. I got naming template options, and then sheet set manager. We incorporate it into that as well. Now it's going to write this into a sheet set. You don't have to use sheet set manager, but if you guys aren't currently using it, I highly recommend it. It's a really powerful tool, just a bit of a learning curve to get it in place. I'll go ahead and hit finish here, and it's going to create our layouts. You're going to see it working in the background here. It's taking those polylines and those blocks, and it's creating viewports, and then it's rotating and scaling those viewports to match our settings. And it's doing it all within that plan and profile template that I had set up ahead of time. So like the native tool set, the workflow's pretty familiar, right? Here it pops open Sheet Set Manager for me. Here's all my layouts it created. I'm going to go ahead and double click one of these. It's going to open up the new drawing that this layout was created in. And so there's my sheet. Okay, now where these land, it's all up to you. You get to control it based on those print blocks. Okay. A number of the other things here, we said we did profile match line blocks. We can even do masking in that buffer area. So notice that I want to show some grid beyond this, but I don't want to see objects beyond that. All that is handled in the tool set. And we're not making any proprietary objects. It's all working on native Civil 3D and AutoCAD objects. Here's the plan match lines. Now what this looks like, again, this is just a block. You can use different line types, different text, whatever you want. But the point is that it populates sheet set fields in here. So the stationing, the sheet number, if you want the sheet name to show up in here, it'll do that as well. It rotates the north arrow for you. It's naming all these tabs down here, okay? Doing a lot of work for you. But what you might be saying is, well, that's cool and all, Brian, but that's kind of what the native tools do, right? Right, we've made a lot of improvements along the way, but what we're really after is this thing right here, right? The update layouts. What about when something changes? A lot of organizations try to get to a place where like your Planum profile sheets are set, don't move them, right? You can't move them anywhere. Well, that gets kind of limiting, and why should we be stuck with that? I should be able to shift my sheets around at any time and not have it take hours or days of work to update all those sheets. So let's make a change here. That could be anything. The alignment shifts, maybe the work got bumped back a little bit. I want to shift all these sheets back 20 or 30 meters, something like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the first command again, and I'm going to shift all my sheets back to, let's say, we're missing this manhole here. We need to shift it back some. And if we look at the end, I've actually got a lot of space there, so I don't need new sheets. I just need to shift everything back, okay? So I'm going to run plan view shapes again, and it's going to remember all these settings. So the updating workflow is really fast, in fact. So instead of starting right there, I'm going to back this up to about here. I'm going to hit next. I'll hit finish, and you'll see all this stuff shift in the background. Let me zoom out a little bit just so you can see it shift. Notice where all the match lines are. All of these are going to shift as well. This is the kind of thing, right? Like it ripples through your entire project. It affects every sheet. So I'll hit finish, right? Everything shifted 20 meters or so. All the stationing is off on all my sheets. You can even go look at them, right? Everything is shifted on these, okay? Normally you'd come through, you'd manually update this stuff, or you'd delete your sheets and recreate them again. This tool is about not having to do that. You can automate it. By the way, this starting point here where we had too big of a station range, if you want, you can actually tell it, put a match line at the begin station. And then it'll trim that right there perpendicular to that alignment. So lots of options there. Notice you can just run this again and again and it'll refresh the plan view layout. I've got my profile views made, but the station ranges are all off. So I simply run adjust profiles, pick all my profile views. And again, all the settings are remembered there. These are settings that are remembered per drawing. And as I hit OK, you're going to see all these station ranges shift. Okay. Now, if it shifted so much that some pipes and structures weren't there, just simply run networks to views again. Okay. And then we just need to reposition them in the sheets themselves. So we grab all of the profile views again, align them with the plan views. And now everything gets repositioned, okay? That's how quick it is to update everything. And then you simply run this command, update layouts. So that combination of tools, shifting my plan views around, shifting my profile views around, okay? I can do that all day long. And at any stage, I can come up here and run update layouts to push those changes to all of my layouts. Here's all those layouts. Yeah, you can tell how off those are. Here's the new position, right? The viewport is going to twist and shift to match that new position. So let's go run the update layouts command. Prompts me to save. Say yes to that. I've got some of the same options that I had during the create layouts command about north arrows and match lines. Okay, maybe some of this needs to shift. Maybe I want a different match line style, that sort of thing. And then on here, it actually tells me, here's my new station range. And here's the layout that's going to get updated or adjusted to match that station range. Okay. So you can even override it if some of these aren't lining up the way you want. You can choose a different one, but it usually lines it up pretty well. And then finally, it needs to update my sheet set manager fields as well. So I'm going to hit finish. You're going to see it run in the background here. You're going to see those viewports shifting. It's pretty quick. You know, when we built this tool, we tested it, and we were doing it on, you know, projects of hundreds and hundreds of sheets, and you know, it did this in about 5 seconds. But you imagine 100 sheets, it's a couple minutes, right? And what does it do? It goes to every sheet, it adjusts the viewport, adjusts the match lines. Okay, the new stationing is plugged in. It adjusts the names of tabs. It adjusts the sheet set fields themselves. Okay, it's a really powerful, robust tool set. This is one we had developed in partnership with another large firm out there. They just did a ton of Planum profile stuff like that. And it's there's a lot of folks out there using this now. So if you do any kind of plan sheets, profile, plan and profile, right? Anytime it's beyond like 2 or 3 or 4 sheets, right? You want some automation to it. And anyway, sheet generator, I think you're going to find a lot of use for that. Let's move on. Let's talk about legends.
While you're getting your drawings up there, Brian, it also might be nice to kind of show off how complete these tools are with your help button and the video button and things like that. It really curbs the learning curve.
Yeah, that's a good point. So that tool we just went through, sheet generator, some of you are probably going, well, I don't know if I can get all my new users to learn that, right? It's a pretty complex tool, admittedly, right? I mean, it's nothing compared to all of Civil 3D. But the plan view shapes command, what does that do, right? In every one of these tools, you might have noticed at the top, there is a help button. If I click on this, it opens up a detailed user guide. I can jump right to it here, like sheet generator, and it gives me detailed explanations, talks about the workflow, and spells out every function in the application. I can click on the videos button. This is a real popular one, and it brings me to a playlist. Data Wizard allows me to scan my current drawing for exactly that tool on the CTC website. It'll give you introduction as well as detailed deep dive videos on how to use these tools. And then of course you're going to run into situations something isn't working in your drawing, or you just got a question about how to best use it on your project. You click on the support button. It brings you right here. It tells you, it populates the tool and the version. You simply click your location, and this is going to get routed right to CTC's partner, SolidCAD. SolidCAD works with us in partnership to support you guys on this stuff. And you just come in and type the description. It'll create a support case, and you'll be on your way. And then finally, the About menu, simple information, but the thing to note in here is it tells you the version you're on, and you can also download the latest version right here. So like I said, we've got some new tools coming out soon. You simply click that. It brings you to a direct download page. You simply run that MSI installer. It'll pull the old off, put the new on, and it'll do it for the 5 latest versions of Civil 3D. So we're always supporting the 5 latest versions. So a good thing to point out. Thanks, Colin. So Data Wizard or automated legends, that was something we were talking about. Legends are one of those things where we do a lot of different ways, right? As I mentioned, you have a one-size-fits-all that maybe you copy and paste. and then you edit after the fact. One way or another, it's a pretty tedious thing, not to mention error prone. And errors in your plan sets, right? We have no tolerance for that. And there's liability associated with that. So let's talk about some legend scenarios. I've got an existing conditions sheet here, and I want to make a sheet-specific legend. Specifically, show only what's in this viewport. Now I could do it, like a project-wide. I've got 2 existing conditions sheets. I could do it project or drawing-wide, or I could do sheet-specific. Let me show you that option. I'm going to run this on the current drawing. I could grab XREFs, okay, very common where we've got XREFs into our sheets. Either way, same difference. I'm going to scan this layout, and I'm going to limit the scan to this viewport. Okay, so I chose just this viewport right here. Only what's found in there and what's visible. It's going to look for whatever objects I choose. Now, this is an existing conditions sheet. In it, I have survey points, figures, and hatches. I click refresh, and it tells me how many objects were found in there and how many actually passed the filter. Okay, so what points do you want to show? Well, for example, like I don't want to include frozen layers. That would give me way more objects than I'm after, okay? So I'll exclude frozen layers. And then more specifically, I can jump in here and say, only give me survey points with the letters SYMB in the layer name. Or maybe you want to weed things out based on raw description, okay? I don't want to get into a ton of detail here, but you've got really detailed control on what objects will show up in your legend, because it's not everything you want to show necessarily. Same kind of thing for my survey figures. This could be polylines, it could be anything. Notice all these object types here, multi-layers, blocks, alignments. The next tab is what information do I want to display? Now this is a legend, so I want to show the graphic itself, right? I want to show a little tree symbol. And then I've got layer descriptions that represent what those objects are. But you can actually extract any kind of information you want. So some of you might be familiar with the data extraction tool. That's a handy thing. Mostly just works on AutoCAD objects. And it won't scan multiple drawings and object types in this way. And it certainly won't create any graphics for you. But some of that workflow might look familiar to what we have here. So you can choose all the different content. Notice there's northing, easting, there's quantity information like length and volume. Okay, I'm just making a legend, so I want one column for my graphic or the symbol and another column for layer description. Then finally, the formatting. What is this thing going to look like? Okay, I've got cell size controls here. Do I want a legend title? Do I want to show headers? Do I want to apply scale factors to the symbology? This is what's going to pass through into my legend. And then because all the settings in here can be fairly complicated, I can actually save this out to a template. So this is an EG legend, and it saves out a Data Wizard template file for me to load in other drawings or for other instances. And then finally, I'm going to execute on this. I'll create an AutoCAD table with my table style called Paperspace Legend. I'll hit finish. I'll drop this right here. It took everything in that viewport. It read the scale that it's appearing at because we selected the viewport, and it populates it all in an AutoCAD table. And it also takes the text from the layer itself. So things like hatch scaling, the line type scale, all that stuff appears in here to scale as you have it defined. How you see it here is how you'll see it in the legend. And it's dynamic too. So what if there's a change to my viewport, if new objects come in there, if there's a layer that becomes frozen, you name it, any change, if that doesn't pass the filter defined to create this, it'll disappear in the legend when you run the update table command. And pick this, create a really simple interface, go ahead and update the table, and what you're going to see is that hatching for the table will disappear. Okay, really dynamic. You don't like the way this showed up here. Go change the layer description, refresh the table. Okay. You want the tree symbol to show up larger? Change the scale in your point style, refresh the table. The trees are actually varying in size here because we have parameter scaling in our description key set. So it takes just the size defined in the point style. But anyway, you get the idea. I come to another layout here. We define that template. I can simply run this, go out and grab that legend I saved. And now the only thing that changes is what? It's the layout in the viewport. All the settings from that legend are in here. Click finish. And now that query is applied to this sheet in this viewport. And guess what? There's no hatching. So that doesn't show up. But now we've got manholes that are appearing, a different tree type. Okay. You want to do sheet specific legends? This will do it. You want to do a legend across 15 drawings at once? This will do it. You simply, at the start here, you can choose your current, your XREFs, or additional drawings. You can browse out, include an entire sample set of drawings to create one big master legend. Okay. The same thing works with QTO, right? I can pull that quantity information out as well. Here's another example with a bunch of attributed M leaders, common thing used for callouts, right? Wouldn't you want to be able to tabulate those? Takes the, I think I forgot to select the viewport. That's why it was a little too small, right? But it's taking the symbology. Let's pick this viewport this time. Then it knows exactly what size to do. If you're not picking a viewport, by the way, and you're just basing it on model space, you can apply scale factors right here. So if it was a model space legend, you might enter your scale in right here to scale it up by that amount, up or down, right? So I'll hit finish. There we go. Now the symbols are to scale, and then do the right sorting there. But what it's actually doing is it's pulling the attribute out of these blocks right there. So that's an invisible attribute. I can pull that information right into my legend. Okay. All sorts of tabulation, legend scenarios, all that kind of stuff can happen with this tool. You know, there's a variety of tabling tools in the software natively. A lot of them have their limitations, especially when it comes to actual symbology showing up in your legends or tables. So Data Wizard, another really powerful tool that helps in your plan production. Let's move on to the last tool. I've got a beta version I want to show you guys. If it crashes on me, well, that's just part of the game. It's called Label Genie, and it's automated labeling like we talked about. And I think it's really going to change your guys' plan production. It's going to take tasks that take hours or days and turn them into minutes. And let me give you a few examples of this. I've got 3 different drawings here. And in them, I've just got, there's a number of layouts, and it's just polylines representing a bunch of lots. I want to label all these with line and curve labels. What would I normally have to do? I'd have to go pick every single one of those, right? So with Label Genie, I can come in here. Let's look at our drawing sources. I want to include additional drawings. So this is much like the Data Wizard interface you just saw. And I'm going to add the current drawings I have open, but I want to avoid that one. I don't need that one or that one. So I've got the current drawing plus these 2 extras. We're going to label all these drawings at once. I'm going to come up here. I'm going to grab line and curve labels. I want to anchor these on polylines. And then if I go into the filter, I want to make sure it only goes on, or only for polylines on the layer, CProp lots. And what's my anchor point? Segments. So depending on the anchor object you chose, the anchor point will vary as well. I've got only lines and curves and polylines, pretty straightforward. Next tab is the formatting tab. This is a line and curve label. So the custom fielding up here doesn't really apply, and so I can delete that here, but I'll show you an example where we use that for some M-text field population. But here I can just choose my line and curve style. Then I'll hit Add Update Labels. And it populates, it's quite literally thousands of labels all at once across all these layouts. And we said multiple drawings, right? 3 drawings at once across all the layouts, right? Now that was a pretty simple thing, but what was the work involved to do that normally? What would it be? Probably take you 15 minutes. We can do it in probably less than a minute on this. Not to mention, what about when things change? Now this build I have right now, the updating isn't working. Like I said, it's in beta, but the update labels means you can run this scenario again. It'll go back out, refresh the labels that should maybe be moved, and also add labels that maybe are not there yet that meet your criteria, including your filter criteria. Let's do this again with M-text. You know, Civil 3D labels are great for a lot of things, but sometimes you just need good old M-text or an M-leader or something like that, right? And that's just totally manual, right? Not with this. Let's grab that same drawing set, those 3 drawings. This time we're going to do multi-line text, and we're going to anchor it on those same polylines, and we're going to go to the centroid. I could pick vertices, okay, and then I have all these different vertice options. Centroids though, and what I'm getting at here is, right, placing a label on the centroid of the polyline and calling out the area or something like that, right? Now this is something that some of you maybe use the parcel tools in Civil 3D. Maybe some of you don't, because those are really a struggle. They're really kind of tedious tools. They're clumsy, they're kind of buggy. And so a lot of you use polylines for this kind of stuff. And the labeling becomes pretty tedious, right? In fact, that's one of the main reasons why you would try to use parcel tools, is because of the labeling. Well, with Label Genie, you can stick with stable polylines, but we automate all the labeling for you. So going to the Formatting tab, let's back up here, make sure we got the right filter, C-prop lots. And then I can start to build out a custom field in here. It's pretty intuitive. I'm gonna put area, colon. I could make it a new line if I wanted. I can just add the area. Now we can do all sorts of other things. We can pull layers and lengths and all this kind of information out of it. Basically everything, if you're familiar with AutoCAD Fields, all those fields you can create, that's exactly what these are. That's what we have here. We're just automating the insertion of it for you. Normally you have to do that one M-text objects at a time. It's really tedious. And then we've got formatting options. It's M-text, so there's a lot of options, right? It's an annotative, what's the text size, the display width, a lot of this different stuff here. Capitalization. Do you want to orientate to the object, the view, or your WCS, right? We can assign a rotation, vertical offsets, okay, background masking, all this kind of stuff. I've got it assigned for 3 different drawings. I'm going to click Add Update Labels, and it's going to insert M-text the way I told it on all of these layouts across these 3 drawings. And like I said, it's an AutoCAD field. So an AutoCAD field is dynamic. This isn't functionality. I mean, this is native stuff here. You look in here, this is an AutoCAD field. It's being linked to an object, to the area. Okay, we're just automating the insertion of that field. But if you're not familiar with fields, it means when the source object changes, a region and the area or the value itself will update. Okay. Those are handy, but they're really clumsy to build because you got to build one at a time. One other scenario, what about just some M leaders on polylines? I want to show you guys pretty basic things here because this is the stuff that takes so much of our time. Let's just say we want multi-leaders on polylines and on the seawall layer. And attach it to the origin point. And then maybe I just want to hard code some text in there, just retaining wall. And down here, what's your M leader style, capitalization, so on and so forth, rotation. Then I want to put an offset because I want it to be dragged out a little bit, right? I think I got all the settings right. We'll hit add update labels. And I think I chose the wrong style. You get the idea though, the label came in there and inserted this label at every one of these retaining wall polylines, okay? And now it's a standard way it's inserting, right? So are you gonna come in here and do some drag state? Of course. What we're after with Label Genie is automating about 85% of your labeling. And then when you need to tweak things, you simply come and do that as well. Now, other things we can be doing, think about all your grading labels, spot elevation labels, clicking and clicking, slope labels, all this kind of stuff. All of that will automate with Label Genie. It won't be in this first release, but think about the annotation in your profile views and your section views, all of that stuff. So not just plan view, but also profile and section views. So really cool tool set we're excited about. The other one that's releasing in June is called AutoGrader, and it's an automated site grading tool. Something a long time coming, really cool tool. And we'll be talking about that in the future as well. Or if you want to, you can check out on CTC's YouTube site. I did an introduction to AutoGrader just a couple weeks back, so feel free to check that out as well. So with that, Colin, any questions that came in?
We have a couple here, yeah. Within the tool, specifically Label Genie, is there a way to search out all the layers that are available, or is it, do you have to know the specific layer as you're inputting it?
Yeah, right now we have it, you'd have to know the layer that it's looking for, but it's not quite it's not just like a list. So you could, I mean, it could be something like everything that starts with seawall, you know, or you could say, give me seawall, give me C dash structure, right? Everything that starts with that. So think of it more as a file explorer filter, so to speak. So it's not just choosing a single layer. But to that end, it's a good point. I'll look to get some kind of option to just like choose from a list here, but that you could also type out a formula like this. So yeah, good point. Thanks for the tip.
Great, thanks, Stephen. That was a great question, and it's nice to be able to have those questions when things are still in beta phase because it impacts it. I had another question about the updating layouts. If we're going back to Sheet Generator, someone was curious if the layouts don't already update in the regular Civil 3D tools. And I think we covered that, but they don't, right?
Well, they don't, yeah. So the native tool set you're thinking of is the create Viewframes commands right here. And everything I showed you, with the exception of some enhancements we put in there, we create those layouts. The big addition is the update layouts, meaning once you make a change, once you've created those layouts, they're no longer dynamic to your model space. And so that's the major difference. That's the big solve that we're after with that tool. In order to do that, we couldn't use the native Viewframes tool set. We had to recreate it because it needed to be more flexible in that way. And we also wanted to add other features along the way.
Yeah, and that was the largely pronounced kind of issue with the native tool set, is it really tied you down when you started to get into view frames. The alignment couldn't change and everything like that, but now with these tools, you can come back, you can update. It's very, very flexible, so it kind of it works with the ebb and flow of your design
It
as
does,
things
yeah.
move along.
And
And it's
those of you
really,
who have used,
yeah, go
those
ahead.
of you who have used the, yeah, those of you who have used the view frames, you notice kind of like if you're trying to adjust them, they get really kind of weird, right? I mean, if you want to put your view frame over here, go nuts, right? Do anything you want. You want to move your match line around, it'll let you do anything you want. So it's important to understand that that flexibility is there as well, because we know you guys get into weird situations where you just need to take one or two of these sheets, shape the viewport how you want, and then have that right to your layout.
And you can angle it. It's, for example, the one that you were just holding there, the match line, it's hovering over top of a structure. And you
Right,
can
right.
very quickly just move that because it's just a polyline.
Yep, yep. So we put these in here as just guides, but if you move that around, you could just grab, adjust your viewport the way you want it to, right? It's just polyline, so there's no limit to what you can do with it. So if you do that, oops, right there, I think you get the idea. You know, it's an interesting thing you bring up though, about the structure landing on the match line. You guys had seen that functionality where we told it to avoid alignment vertices. Don't land on a PC, a PI, that sort of thing. I'm going to be building out additional functionality where you can specify a pipe network. Like don't land if a structure is within 5 units of the match line, or certain blocks or whatever you might want it to avoid. We're going to build some of that extra intelligence in there.
That's great. Yeah, and this kind of leads right into the next point is the learning curve of all these tools is so minimal when you look at the time savings. Not necessarily a question, but something I wanted to point out.
Yeah,
Is
yeah, it is. And you know, some of the stuff you guys see like Data Wizard and Sheet Generator, it's very kind of standards based, right? Some of you probably looked at my sheets and were like, oh, those look like crap. That's not how my sheets look, right? Everyone has their kind of own branding to this. And so there is some of that standards to set up. That block I mentioned, you have to create that, or at least take the one that I give in the sample file, manipulate it. So along with those sample files, there's also a detailed sheet generator configuration video on YouTube, a detailed deep dive on how to set it up for your standards to make it work for your plans. Same thing for Data Wizard, not just like how to make it work in a canned demo like I'm showing you guys today, but how do you really make it work for your own projects? Lots of information on the YouTube site.
absolutely. And if YouTube's not your flavor kind of thing, we can sit with you one-on-one and work through setting these up to fit the criteria in your standards kind of thing. But with that, that's the end of our questions.
Okay, great.
So unless there's any more, for maybe another second or two, but we've reached the end of the webinar. So thank you so much for sticking with us till the end, everyone. And we really look forward to hearing from you, hearing feedback from the tools and things like that. Another good point to note is that there are free trials to these Sim Project Suite tools, as well as the Sim Manager Suite tools that Brian's pulling up now. As well as there are a couple little kind of free tools in each of these suites as well that are very, very handy.
Yeah, the website will have detailed videos and so forth on what these do. And then there's a free trial for all of them. And then some of these, in fact, it's the light green ones. Those are free indefinitely. So we always put free tools in our suites. Here's those sample files I was talking about. You can download the trial. Pretty straightforward.
Very exciting tools. It may challenge your workflows a little bit, but it is going to save you tons of time in the end. So with that, we look forward to hearing from you with any feedback, questions, whatever the case. You can reach out to myself or SolidCAD or support@solidcad.ca. And if anyone has any questions, we look forward to hearing from you, and that'll be the end of the webinar.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.